Hi students, this week we're going to talk about chapter 13 and 14, which covers indexers, delegates, operators, events, and inheritance. Excuse me. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to this product class that we're writing back in the previous module. It's fairly the same, untouched. I have my product default constructor here, or I have my product constructor here that takes in the three properties that my product has on it, as well as the getDisplayText method here. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to cover, we're going to set up a little bit first before we start covering anything new. So the first thing I want to do is I want to right-click Add and hit New Class. In that new class, I want to call it a product list. So essentially, this is just going to be a list of our products. It's not going to do anything that a list doesn't already do. We're just going to implement some new features. That way we can overload some operators, declare some events, and we want to see if an event happens on our list. That way we can do something on the form. And then we're going to go ahead and when we cover inheritance, we're going to actually be inheriting from our product class to reuse some functionality. So if you're looking at the chapter 13 slides, it's chapter 13 slide 3, where we're going to cover some of the functionality we're going to put in this product list. So all this is doing is just going to have a list of products that essentially we're wrapping our code around. So I'm going to go ahead and make a list of product. We're going to call those products. So whenever somebody news this up, so this needs to be newed up every time we use it. Whenever we new it up, we're going to have a list of products that can go into our product list. So the next thing I'm going to do is make a constructor for my product list. And in that constructor, I'm just going to make sure my list is instantiated. That way I don't get a null reference exception when I go to try to access it. You'll see if we don't do this, so whenever we call product list, whenever we say product list p equals new product list, the first thing it's going to do is give this a value, which is a new list of product. So that way, whenever we go to access products, it's not null, because right here it's null, and right here it has a value. So the next thing I'm going to do is give us the ability to get how many elements is in our list. So I'm going to go ahead and do a public method that returns an integer, and I'm going to call it count. And then here's a special operator called a lambda, which is used for multiple purposes in C#. This purpose after a property name is basically saying get. So this is saying count, and then how do I get it? Well, you get it by going to my products list and then getting the count from that. So I'm saying count, and I want you to get it, or go to products.count, and that's going to return as an integer, since count is an integer. So you can see count here is an integer. So right now, if you did products p equals new product list p equals new product, and you said products p, or you did p.count, you would get 0. So the next thing I'm going to do is give us the ability to add a product. So I'm going to do public void, and it's not going to return anything. It's just simply going to add a product to our list. And all it's going to do is use the list.add up here. So I'm going to say add, and it's going to take in a type of product. And then when we add it, we're just going to do product and the list.add, products.add, and we're going to say products.add product. So now if we new up a product list, product list p equals new product list, and then we said p.add new product, and then we can say code equals description equals price equals that would actually add that product here to our list. If this was done maybe in the form somewhere. If we're maybe trying to add products to our list in the form, that's how that would be done. From there, there's a method in the slide that we can get the product. So I'm going to return a product, get product by index, and what it's going to do is give us an index that we can find the product in our list. And I'm going to say when I get it, return products at that particular index. I don't know if we'll use that, but since it's in the slide, I'll go over what that's doing. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to have the ability to remove a product from my list, and again I'm just going to go ahead and use the list.remove. So it's going to be void. I'm just going to pass it a product to remove. Go ahead and call this remove product, and then I can say products.remove product. So we'll find that product in this list and remove it. The next couple methods we might need to do a little work on. The first method, they both require a product DB. I have a product service that I might use to do somewhat of the same thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the service instead of the DB. It essentially does the same thing. So I'm going to say public void fill, and what that's going to do is could fill our text area or whatever the case may be with our products. And then what I want that to do I already said I was going to use the service and I didn't. Product service dot get products. Okay, and since this actually returns an IEnumerable of products that you can see if we F12 into it, you can see that this returns an IEnumerable of product. So when I go back, since that returns an IEnumerable of product, considering this is, I'm trying to leverage some polymorphism here. If you go here and this is a list, I actually need to, oh, sorry about that. I actually need to cast this to a list, since that's what's on this form is a list of product. So if anybody calls fill, I can go ahead and get the products from my database. And then I can do a save event or a save method. And whenever that happens, I can call the product DB, or in this case, my product service. That my service will probably talk to my database if this were an actual implementation. And I'm going to call save with my products. And since this doesn't exist, I'll need to create it. So I'll let it help me out here with a control period, generate method. And since it's passing the products, my method over here should already be stubbed out for me. And it is. I'm just going to go ahead and make this public instead of internal. And I'm just going to get rid of this. This method is not going to do anything. What it would do is it would save to the database or pass it to my database. DB class to save, or DB project to save the products. So the first thing that I want to go over, I kind of glossed over a little bit last week, so I'll cover it a little bit more in depth here, is this. Where's my product class? Product. So here's our constructor that actually takes in the three things that we want to set. And I didn't cover that too well last week, so when I go to here, right, yeah, get products. Where's my product service? Here's my product service. So instead of using the object initializer, what I can do, I'm going to get rid of the object initializer here, and I'm going to use my default constructor, just to show that you can use this either way. So I can pass that, and pass that. So you can see that you can use this as the object initializer and actually give these things a value, or you can use the default constructor that I made and pass it like that, just like you would any other type of method. So that's the reason you build those constructors. Again, it's a lot of preference. This was kind of the standard before object initializers existed in C#, but that's not to say that constructors still aren't useful and there's still not uses for them. You'll cover a lot more of that when you start learning about dependency injection and ways to inject services into your objects. But as far as just plain old C# objects, either of these ways is more than acceptable to make a new instance of a class and be able to set each property of your class with certain values. So hopefully that makes sense. You can have constructors with more or less parameters. If you just wanted to pass maybe these two parameters, you can take this one out, as long as you have a constructor over here that matches it. So if you wanted to do that, you'd have to copy and paste this code and remove this decimal. If maybe you only wanted to pass two parameters. And I think that's about it for this lecture. So the next lecture I'd like to start covering events. And we won't cover too much about operators. Or indexers, but I am going to cover events and delegates, since that's a big part of C# now going forward. So see you in the next video. Thanks.